Jacob, welcome to a discussion of the Hinterstein Campaign. Thanks so much for joining.
Yeah, glad to be here.
It's great to have you on. Where in the world are you talking to us from?
I'm in Manila, in the Philippines.
Manila. Brilliant. Okay. First of all, I want to say that everyone in the community appreciates your patience as you're 12 hours. You're completely on the other side of the world, and so we always get your messages at the inverse, right? So you're sending us a message in the evening or the morning, opposite of
Yeah,
what we're experiencing.
yeah. I
When do
think
you
I
usually
just got
play? Do
used
you
to it.
usually play during the morning?
I think it depends with who I'm playing with.
Sure.
So for a while, I was a bit. It was a bit hard getting used to people being active or being able to reply so late. But I think I just got used to replying right before I slept or like right when I woke up.
Right. Makes sense. And we got you early in the morning, your time today, so I appreciate you getting up and
Yeah, no
first thing.
problem.
Hopefully, a little orange juice to get you going. So, in the most recent campaign, you were a tactical player,
Yep.
and we're going to focus on the Battle of Elmbach, where you were working with Ardius and the Fifth Corps of the Red Group or the Wolkenreich group on the
Yep.
southern flank. Awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and bring up what was your overall impressions of the campaign? You had a very dynamic experience because you guys were all over the map. You were riding cavalry raids and the whole bit. What was your overall experience?
Yeah. So um Swens assigned me to Ardius just because I could be sort of like Ardius, like ad hoc subordinate commander if he needed an element to detach from Fifth Corps.
Uh huh.
Um, which did happen when he asked me to go down south with the cavalry before
Right.
the tactical battle, and I think it helped. But right when the tactical battle started, I was pretty surprised to see how small our core was now. We were practically, what's that, like a third of like what we were supposed to be.
Right. Well, two things happened. First of all, the core itself was split into component parts to give to Slock as he went west, so that
Yeah,
he didn't have the full core to start, and then he had the rather unsuccessful battle at Holtz just prior to the battle where you joined, where he
yeah,
lost a lot of the core there. So the core was much diminished by the time you joined it, but you guys did a great job from there on.
yeah. Um, I think it was a pretty interesting setup, especially since he gets to we get so used to when we play these like scenarios, when we think of superiors and subordinates. Usually, a superior is commanding more than a subordinate's units just because they have more than one subordinate.
Right.
But since me and Ardius were had this small group left, it was this like really interesting communication of telephone where I had to make sure that what I was sending was actually the same as what he was sending, just to make sure that nothing nothing happens when it comes to executing the orders.
Right. Right. So you had the original assignment was that you were in charge of the infantry regiment.
Yep.
Sorry, the infantry brigade for the Fifth Corps, which was all that remained of two divisions. And Ardius was going to have an artillery grouping and then some cavalry. But you guys had a very interesting. Let's bring up map one. So you guys started in Trebe, somewhat behind the rest of the group because it took a while for the Fifth to kind of gather its forces together and what stragglers they could gather together. So you guys were in Trebe, which is circled in yellow in map one. So what was your original idea for the operation?
So, given the diminished size of our element, I was pretty sure our role wasn't going to be that big. Like, we weren't going to be the hammer or the anvil or making this like really big impression the on the field. So, I was honestly, as a subordinate, I was just really waiting for RDS to like communicate with our commander in chief and the other corps to figure out like what exactly are we how are we going to apply ourselves given like our smaller element.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so you all started out and you detached the cavalry to head south to check the southern flank. Talk about that a little bit. And I'll bring up
So,
map 2, which shows it.
yeah, sure. So when we were already tasked to be the southern flank, or like that left wing of that area, what first came to mind was that road between Tanoff and um that town south of the hills, south of Trib.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And uh, the first thing I immediately thought of, like, people always want to go on flanking attacks, and
Right.
honestly, given the amount of manpower that our opponents had, I wouldn't be surprised if they'd try anything like funny, or just, like, just because they had the extra men to spare, it would be an opportunity that would be wasted if they didn't do anything about it. So I immediately asked if we could at least send somebody down there. And since we had since I was there, since I we had the privilege of having two independent commanders, given that my corps commander could manage our small brigade. I
Mm-hmm.
volunteered to so that we could have, like, so we could um give a better report. I think that was what I was looking for. I knew
Right.
I had the opportunity to communicate better.
And here's a great example of where Kriegsspiel staff teams work really well. You were a human commander, obviously, in your, as was your corps commander. He kept the infantry and the artillery together. You took the cavalry, so you could go look and come back with a better assessment than sending a non-player character south and relying on the umpire to come back with a report. So you put actual human eyes on the area down south, which was a really smart thing to do.
Yep. I was honestly just really worried that they'd hide people, or they'd send people in that road, because those heights or the forest could really obscure any movement, which it actually did.
It actually
Really.
did. Well, actually, in the end, they did exactly what you suspected. They just did it later than you
Yeah.
would have been dangerous for you. So you had it right. Fortunately, they didn't do it until later in the battle. So we'll
Yeah.
pull up map 3, which shows the where you ended up. So you rode. So the yellow circle shows Ardius and the two infantry regiments, as well as the artillery, in the woods up on the high ground, and then your uh, counter is just south of that with the cavalry. So you rode all the way south and found, in fact, nothing was to the south.
Yeah.
But a
Yeah.
report of nothing is a good report, right? So that was it was well done that you were able to confirm that.
Yep.
That's great.
Yeah, I think the best things about being able to report is that at the end of the day, given that Kriegspiel is a battle of information, just even being able to eliminate s- or being able to diminish the probabilities of things, of other scenarios happening, allows you to be able to accurately determine what is actually happening in the battlefield, or like where exactly are people moving around.
Right. 100%. Because now that you knew that, you had a chance to put the Fifth Corps in a great position to help
Yeah.
the 16th Division of the 12th Corps to defend the line. The Blue Force had quite a bit of horsepower coming at you, so you were needed in that part of the fight. So I think you both did a great job, because if you had moved the entire corps south toward that road, or not done a good reconnaissance, you might not have been able to support as well. So it was a good call.
I think that's where the staff dynamic helped, because if I was alone and Ardius went somewhere else, I would have made the brigade just go the whole way around. But
Right.
since Ardius was, like, determined that, okay, we're going to play it safe, we're going to come from the rear of our peer corps so that we can be able to assist if something immediately bad happens. So we were
Right.
able to compromise on like how exactly we were able to achieve that and be able to get what we both wanted out of it.
Absolutely. So once you rejoined, I'll go ahead and let's stay on map 4 for a second. Once you rejoined, what was the thought once you to determine there was nothing to the south?
Honestly, the main determination was just making sure that we weren't that our flank wouldn't buckle, because for all intents and purposes we weren't our size meant that we weren't able to go on the offensive. So my main thinking, and when I was discussing with Ardius, was just let's just make sure that if the um blue forces decide to do anything, we weren't we were ready for any aggressive maneuvers.
Right. Okay. And so as the first day came to an end, you actually had a chance to see you made it to the woods in the lower ground. There was a battle happening to your northwest. The yellow circle is where you are on map 4. And then down to your south, there's a whole division of cavalry. What did you guys make of that?
Yes. I think funny enough, I remember that short conversation where me and Argus were looking for a player token, just because we wanted to make sure of like,
Right,
is this
right,
bigger
right,
than, is this
right.
bigger than what we were seeing?
Yeah. Sadly, with Umpire LaFondiose, you don't get to see enemy player tokens. So you were, I saw that. I was laughing. I said, okay, well, you're never going to find the player token because those are purposely taken off the board.
Yeah. Honestly,
It was
seeing
smart,
that,
though. You were trying to determine what was there, right?
yes. So seeing those cavalry south, my immediate thought was that they were way ahead of me. I thought that I actually thought that they came from behind us. So I thought
Okay.
I wasn't able to see the road south of that forest. I really thought that I missed it. So
Right.
or they were able to conceal their movement through those like through the terrain. So my first thought was that, oh, I think I failed that scouting mission, but
Oh, right.
thankfully it
Okay.
didn't,
Got it.
didn't end that way.
But you hadn't because they'd come from the west. But I can see how you
Yeah,
think maybe you just missed them because of the high ground that was south there. I got you.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then as the evening came, which was the positions that you were in map 4, as the evening came, what was the plan for the following day?
So, um, the plan was pretty straightforward just because, um, well, I think one thing that actually helped was that Ardius was pretty confident in our position. Even if we
Right.
were basically getting flanked from the south, we had the strong position of holding the edge of the woods. And since we're going against cavalry, it couldn't be that bad. But we also had the assistance of the extra cavalry squadron that Argus told me to take command of, which helped. But I think the principle stayed the same as the um before the end of the day, where we were thinking like we just need to hold this flank, just make sure that we don't buckle. Trust our teammates in the north to be able to do their job, and we're just going to do our best to do ours.
Yeah. A good perspective. And then I'll bring up map 5, which is the next morning. And in fact, the next morning you had a naval infantry brigade attack you. But you guys were well situated in the woods. You had artillery, so you actually outgunned them. So they were attacking at less than 1-to-1 odds. And all that cavalry ended up heading east. So they actually went east as you had suspected someone would. And so the next day they did it. They headed east on you. So you were able to hold that flank, as you were saying.
Yeah, I really thought they'd really gun for just collapsing on our whole position. So seeing the enemy cavalry still move east, I have to admit I was a bit surprised and I was a bit confused on what was actually happening.
Yeah, they were going to tree on the road that you had identified, so you called it right, and off they went, and that helped you keep that line strong. You defeated the Naval Infantry Brigade. That helped collapse the whole line because at that point the Blue realized that they could not collapse your line, and they began to withdraw, and the battle in that case was won. So you guys did a tremendous job holding the line and really contributing. Um, and I think one of the key things, and I'll bring up the image now that I actually shared in your channel of your great cavalry ride to the south, making sure there was no big flanking force there, um, was a terrific job as well because I think that's exactly what Kriegsspiel players can do to contribute, and that's like to say, okay, we're going to check this one area that because there was no order from on high to go check down there. That was your guys' idea.
Yeah. I think it was being able to independently think and being able to agree with my teammates, or with, in this scenario, my superior, and being able to figure out, okay, we have the extra resources to check on this area of the map, and we were able to do so.
Yeah, it's terrific. We'll talk now about being a tactical player in a larger operational game, and just how was that being a spectator for one side, and just some feedback on that. What was your experience there?
I had a lot of fun being a tactical player, just because I'm a player who doesn't mind being a subordinate,
Hmm.
or in lower level command. So it felt very exciting to be able to figure out, okay, how did my superiors get us in this situation? What
Right.
happens now that we're stuck here, or like we're stuck in this scenario, and being able to understand how the situation was organically made, just because it all of the positions is because of player decision. It was pretty fun, pretty interesting.
Good. Good. And you're also an umpire, so you're an active umpire. From a gaming mechanics perspective, what was your thoughts, or what do you think we could do better?
um Actually, the transition of a Kriegsspiel game going from a operational to a tactical battle is something that I've been thinking about for the past few weeks. I haven't
Hmm.
been able to run a game just because I'm to starting to write on my thesis. But
Ah, right.
um, the interesting thing is that how can I how can I transition from a strategic to a tactical scenario without actually boring the players, without
Right.
giving 20 people nothing to do. And I think this was an interesting um this was an interesting decision, in that you made the tactical players in sort of a waiting room, giving them drip feeding them news about what's actually happening in the front, while giving these strategic players like the time to actually make moves in a very fast pace. Because usually when I think of strategic or operational games, it's usually once a week turns, or maybe even more than that.
Right. Right. And being aware that people were in a waiting room, so
Yeah.
you don't want to keep it going too
Yeah.
long. But generally, the tactical players had good patience and good thoughts, and they showed up for the battle. Um, we're thinking through ways to continue to perfect that, so that everybody knows kind of when they're on and when they can watch. So good. Okay. So overall, the drip feed kind of worked for you. Any other
Yeah.
thoughts things we could that you enjoy or that we could do better?
I really like the maneuver aspect of the operational scenario. Um, I'm not. I haven't really thought about it too much, but just thinking about playing out the rear guard action of a withdrawal.
Yeah.
It sounds interesting, but I think there's also a point where people can argue that it's not as interesting for the players just because all the decisions are quite straightforward on what's supposed to happen.
You know, the final scenario situation where the blue forces were withdrawing over the rivers
Yeah.
to the southwest, and the red forces had one fresh corps of 2 divisions, and everyone else was exhausted, would actually make it an interesting game in and of itself. Like we could play that from start and say that the objective of the blue is to get basically your victory condition is to get as many of your forces intact out as possible, and the red forces to prevent it. I think as I saw that manifested, I think everyone was done with this particular game, so we didn't want to drag it out. But I thought this could be packaged as a scenario in and of itself.
Yeah.
So good stuff. Jacob, thanks so much for coming on early in the morning, your time in Manila. I love the fact that you're in the server and everybody really enjoys your participation, and your larger participation as an umpire is much appreciated. And with the thesis going as well, you're a busy guy. So any time we can get with you is time well spent. Thanks for coming on.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
All right,
Thank
cool,
you so
brother. We'll
much.
talk to you soon.